On a cold winter day, George W. Bush, after being re-elected President of the United States, was given a re-inaugural celebration, the likes of which no one had ever seen. With 10 simultaneous galas in Washington, the inauguration was not only the most expensive in American history, but it was also the most lavish for a wartime president. The level of security surrounding the second-term celebration was definitely a first. 6,000 law enforcement officials, an expanded no-fly zone around Washington, K-9 bomb teams, protesters blocked off miles away, a host of rooftop snipers, and $40 million later, made for a very safe party. Meanwhile, American soldiers in Iraq, buying their own armor and using scrap metal in order to make their Humvees secure, were not getting quite the same attention. The inauguration was themed, celebrating freedom, honoring service. Ironically, 1 week later, there was another first in American history.
Today, we are announcing the selection of Lockheed Martin to begin the system development and demonstration phase of the VXX program.
In 2003, the National Aeronautic Association declared Sikorsky's Teamster-built VH-92 helicopter, which would have flown the future presidents, the greatest achievement in aeronautics in America. Despite Sikorsky's achievement of meeting the FAA's latest and most stringent safety standards and honor of joining the Wright brothers in redefining air travel, the $6.1 billion contract to build the president's Oval Office in the sky, as well as 23 other helicopters, was awarded to a company that had never built a helicopter. Lockheed Martin, the world's largest weapons manufacturer, had the Augusta-Westland team produce the helicopter prototype. Augusta-Westland is based in both the United Kingdom and Italy, where the gearbox, main rotor blades, and main transmission will now be built for the presidential EH-101. The Navy denied that the final selection had anything to do with the fact that Prime Minister Tony Blair and Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi are avid supporters of the war in Iraq.
What we see with this administration is trading. In other words, you support me in Iraq, and I'll give you American jobs. I'll give you American infrastructure. And this was a payback because the UK and Italy have, several thousand troops in Iraq. So they say this is a payback. For that critical Marine One to be farmed out to a European consortium is completely wrong. It's the idea of outsourcing something that's very vital to America. We have to have the ability to make helicopters, to make tanks, to have an infrastructure of industry in this country.
Many in America were upset over this deal for a number of reasons. But American symbolism was the least of their worries.
Somebody else is doing this job, but they're not going to do it like Sikorsky workers. Sikorsky workers are the best workers in the world. We know our job. We're skilled workers.
We have to not have these people just coming off the line, either with their yellow badges or somebody to just think they could come in and do our jobs because they can't do it reliably.
We get certified in everything, mixing, torque certification, bonding certification. We go to classes and hazardous waste classes and all kinds of classes every month almost at Sikorsky. How these people could just step in and do our jobs is unbelievable to me.
Since 2004, Augusta-Westland has not been required to comply with the Yankee White background check administered by the Department of Defense, not been required to participate in the Pentagon's fly-before-buy protocol for helicopter testing, grounded their EH-101 fleet on 3 separate occasions after one British helicopter crashed and cracks in the tail rotor were discovered in several others, sold attack helicopter design technology to Chinese military contractors.
I think that the media began to believe that this was symbolic, that this was about just buy American. And it wasn't that at all. It very seriously involves the technology and the transferring of technology and expertise to a foreign government. As I understand the security clearances, if you are married to someone who is foreign-born, there are difficulties in getting past the security clearances. So it never has been made clear as to how they would, in fact, deal with the issue of security and who's building this, because, again, it is the most sensitive instrumentation, the most sensitive technology. We're talking about the helicopter that carries the President of the United States.
We had it with Unocal, the fourth largest oil company, American-owned, was going to be sold to China, who is going to be our enemy in the future. The administration said, we don't see a thing wrong with it. But Congress rose up and said, that's the worst idea we've heard. For them to be in the hands of communist China would be very, very dangerous. We've got to stop this outsourcing, so in case there is a war, we have the ability to protect ourselves.
Still, those who came to Augusta Westland's defense had a strong point to make.
The long-term trend in presidential transportation is when you buy something new, it's bigger. Air Force One now is much bigger than it used to be. The same thing is happening with the president's helicopter. Lockheed Martin offered 3 engines instead of 2. They offered a more spacious helicopter. They won.
It's true, unless it's an iPod or a cell phone, Americans do like their technology to come in a much bigger package. In the case of the more spacious EH-101, it can even be made cheaper and faster, just like many of our goods here in America. Ironically, Europe is unwilling to give American helicopters an even break across the Atlantic. The governments of Europe have chosen homegrown companies in 11 straight helicopter competitions, and for over a decade awarded 93% of all orders to European competitors. Italy refuses to buy foreign-made helicopters as a matter of policy. European companies, however, have no problem dealing with China, North Korea, or Iran. Here we see Augusta Westland showcasing military helicopters to mullahs and Ukrainians. Last July, Congresswoman DeLauro tried to impose the Marine One Made in America Act, citing national security concerns. House leaders refused, without comment, to even allow a vote on the issue. Starting in 2009, the current Sikorsky Marine One will conclude its 50-year-long presidential tour of duty. To some, the peculiarity of the deal was a huge red flag. Would the new Air Force One soon be made by Russia? Would France eventually make Navy submarines? Well, that's not quite what happened next.